Today we're here to talk about trash talking in Yu-Gi-Oh!
And another, I think that's all the cards in his hand. Oh. The Ash has been taken out, okay, but is it over just at...
Yep, that happened. In simple terms, trash talking often consists of making disparaging, taunting, or boastful comments, especially between opponents in order to intimidate them. The Team YCS in Las Vegas last weekend was probably the only time I've ever seen an attempt of trash talking in Yu-Gi-Oh! This was a finals feature match between two well-known duelists, Hani Jawari and on the other side of the table, Pak, two accomplished duelists with multiple premier event tops and wins under their belt, who also share a history. During the infamous Tier Limit Shizu Tier 0 format, Pak and Hani were featured on stream in one of the most intense and technical mirror matches ever to be recorded back in 2022 at YCS Pasadena. With an extremely complicated game state on board, this match became an overnight meme due to the amount of cards on the table at all times and the fact that this game was almost laughably hard to follow. Hani actually went on to win that YCS Pasadena, leading to an electric rematch as the team captains met once again in Vegas this weekend for the Team YCS. Now, before we go into actually what happened, let's talk a little bit about trash talking in competitive sports, a phenomena that is far from uncommon. Trash talking is an inherent part of competitive games, whether it's physical sports like soccer or football, or games like poker and even video games. Trash talking, while not exactly a display of sportsmanship, is an acceptable part of the competitive mindset. Some do the talking and some just have to take it, and both are a part of the competitive mindset. Now, when it comes to card games that are not specifically poker, I haven't really been able to find any examples of such occurrences. Trading card games are usually more wholesome than that, with card games like One Piece, Pokemon, Digimon, and of course Yu-Gi-Oh! Being marketed partially to children. It is very uncommon to see this type of unsportsmanlike behavior. One of the only times that I can remember seeing anything that was close was probably YCS Dortmund Top 4, where a time call made Joshua Schmidt kind of lose it on stream. Understandably so though. Players should be able to display their emotions on stage, but does Konami actually agree with that statement? Well, thankfully we have the Konami tournament policy for that. Section 2H of the Konami TCG tournament policy regarding unacceptable behavior states that, quote, rude language, disruptive or disrespectful behavior, inappropriate clothing or supplies, unwarranted accusation, and or disregard for the safety of others or the condition of the venue will not be tolerated. Now, let's jump back into the present. It is Game 2 of the Team YCS Las Vegas Finals. Pak goes first and is met with 4 hand traps. He passes back to Hani, who immediately passes back to him with nothing to do on his turn. This obviously means that there are probably more hand traps where those came from. Pak tries to continue playing and is met with another 2 copies of Infinite Impermanence on his 2 only viable lines of play. He deals some damage in the battle phase, and then this happens.
And another, I think that's all the cards in his hand. Oh. The Ash has been taken out, okay, but is it over just at...
Now, I've seen a lot of comments when I woke up the day after YCS Las Vegas about this incident, and a lot of people were clamoring that this was unsportsmanlike behavior and this was kind of below the belt. But I want to give you my personal take on this first. I actually thought that this was kind of funny. Yeah, it might be considered disrespectful, it might even be considered disruptive based on Konami's tournament policy. It's kind of up to the judges to judge if this was in fact the case. But to me, it also showed an insane amount of passion from a duelist. I wouldn't recommend anyone to try this at a sanctioned Konami tournament, but I do recognize when a player is overflown with emotion, and that's not the first time we've seen it from Hani. And this is also probably what happened to Hani in this scenario. You can see in his plays, in his shaking hands, that he was extremely excited about the situation, or even anxious, to get that YCS win. He really wanted it, and in this scenario, he let his opponent know. Pac, on the other hand, was completely unfazed. Poker face, no response. Hani draws for his next turn and scoops it up with no viable top deck, eventually winning game 3 and the entire championship. This was a very mild type of trash talking in my opinion. It's an extremely gray area when it comes to the tournament policy on whether this was actually disruptive behavior or not. Pac seemed unfazed, but as we could all imagine putting ourselves into Pac's shoes, this is probably a little bit disruptive to the thinking process that is required of, a duelist in a YCS finals feature match. I try to put myself in Pac's shoes, thinking about what I would do if this happened in a tournament, and I couldn't really figure out what I would do if I would actually interact back, or comment on it, or just put my head down like Pac did and keep playing. Sure, sometimes it's fine to tease your opponent, especially if you're amongst friends. It happened to me a lot in tournaments where if you're dueling a friend, it's fine to tease them a little bit about the game state, even if you're in a winning position, poke fun at them, and usually it's all in good spirit and it's definitely not considered trash talking or disruptive behavior. While Konami has a zero tolerance policy to anything that they would consider unacceptable behavior or unsporting conduct, this was perhaps a singular time where we would get to see a player's emotions like this on stage. And at this level. Again, even though it was extremely mild and not even personal, this sort of sets a precedence for something that we haven't really seen up on stage. And I think this is especially true because this was a team YCS. In a team YCS, you are sitting next to your teammates. Hani was actually sitting in the center, and you are allowed to talk about the game states in between games, or even during the game itself. So that means you're in a much more open mindset to communicate than you would in a regular 1v1 feature match where you have to keep your thoughts to yourself. And it could probably be weird to trash talk in a 1v1, but if it's a 3v3 and you have your friends on your side, maybe it seems a little bit more reasonable when your team is sitting next to you and you're openly communicating anyway. This was my 2 cents about this scenario. I don't think this was a huge deal. I think this was more on the funny side than the weird side. Could have been cringy at times, but he was in the finals and eventually Hani also won. And also I gotta give respect to Pac for keeping his sportsmanship throughout this and really not interacting with the scenario at all. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below because I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about this. Like the video if you enjoyed and leave a comment as well if you like this type of video also. Make sure to subscribe if you enjoyed this. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.